Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So if I could ask everybody to take their seats as we start this final session of in this room for today. My name is Seamus Hoyne. I'm the Dean of Flexible and Work-Based Learning in the Technological University of Shannon in Ireland, and also Secretary General of FEDEREN, the European Network of Local and Regional Energy Agencies. So I'm delighted to welcome you all to this session where we're focusing on the skills agenda, but particularly in relation to buildings. And we have the opportunity for you to hear from some excellent speakers looking at innovative ways of addressing this skills challenge in relation to low, near zero, and indeed energy positive buildings. So during the session, we have the opportunity to hear best practices from across Europe, from projects that were initiated and developed through the Build Up Skills Initiative. You will hear about the Build Up Skills Initiative from the European Commission and particularly from our colleague Amadine in the SENEA, which the Build Up Skills Initiative has been transformative in developing initiatives, opportunities, and new ways of thinking and delivering upskilling, reskilling for construction workers, for craftspeople, and for professionals. And then we will have the opportunity for a debate and a panel discussion to look at where we go into the future. For those that were in this room for the earlier session, we focused on renewable energy skills in particular, and the challenges in terms of a shortage in terms of the quantity and the quality of workers to deliver on our renewable energy challenges. We also have similar challenges in relation to the built environment. And in fact, they are not mutually exclusive. We were speaking about heat pumps in relation to the renewable energy sector just half an hour ago. Many of those heat pumps are being installed in buildings. Buildings that have to be designed or retrofitted to meet our energy goals and our climate goals. So to kick it off in terms of the session, I would like to invite Amandine de Coster-Lacourt to give you an overview of the Build Up Skills Initiative and the background and where it goes to the future. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Seamus. Thank you for having me today. It's really a pleasure to open this session where we are going to hear about results from Build Up Skills, an initiative that I had the pleasure to follow now for more than 8 years. So really, really happy to hear more about this. But before starting, a few words about who we are. So the Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. We are a Brussels-based organization supporting the European Commission in implementing the Green Deal. We manage 7 funding programs that you can see listed on this slide. And basically, we put our expertise at the support of beneficiaries of EU-funded projects. But we also, importantly, we also feed the results from the projects back to the policymakers. By the end of the programming period, we should be running or following 4,500 projects at least, which is quite a big portfolio. But now let's reflect a bit on why skills matter so much for the building sector. Well, clearly there are many reasons, and we could just list a few here. For example, it is estimated that about half of the construction workforce globally will retire in the coming decade. And as you can imagine, this is going to have a massive impact on the sector in terms of all the valuable skills that will be lost. We also know that typically the construction value chain is made up of small SMEs and micro enterprises, and to find the time to upskill is really challenging. At the same time, just to add to the challenge, we have a fast-changing regulatory and technical environment, so it also means that the skill set required from professionals is expanding drastically. So if you combine all this together, you see a bit the magnitude of the challenge we are facing. So against this background, the Pact for Skills in Construction that was signed by the European social partners last year has the ambition to upskill no less than 3 million workers in the next 5 years. But of course, these issues, they are not new. So we've been supporting projects on the upskilling of building professionals for many years now through the Build Up Skills initiative, which has been funded through open calls in various programs. The focus is quite clear. It's all the skills for the clean energy transition of the building stock. But at the same time, we also look at the measures that could increase the demand for skills and skilled professionals. So not just supplying skills, but also making sure that once someone is trained and qualified, he or she is well visible and recognized on the market. In terms of target groups, we address obviously building professionals and the companies addressing them, the public authorities at all levels, but also building owners and tenants. So far, more than 90 projects have been supported. What is interesting for today's discussion is that these projects, they really came up with a whole toolbox of innovative approaches, and we are going to hear more about this in a moment. Just to name a few, national skills strategies, looking at really the skills gaps and designing a roadmap of actions at national level. Qualification and training schemes, obviously. Innovative training approaches, whether it's to bring the training directly at the construction site or to make it more accessible through digital means. Some pilot trainings of professionals and trainers were done during the projects, although it's not the main objective. And as I mentioned, measures to boost the recognition. So awareness campaigns, for example, skills passports, skills registries, or also linking skills with procurement, very important. So all these tools, they are now available for upscaling and massification at national, regional, and maybe local level. This publication will provide you more examples. It's available online. It's also available at the CINEA stand for those of you attending in Brussels. Now what's important is that we do continue supporting Build Up Skills, now through the LIFE program. I'm sure you all know LIFE from the nature, circular economy, climate change pillars, but since last year it also has a pillar on the clean energy transition that really aims to lift the barriers to this transition, on focusing on non-technological aspects. And within that CET pillar, as we call it, we continue to fund Build Up Skills and all the different intervention areas that you see also listed on this slide. At the moment, we are running 13 projects, national ones, that are updating the national skills strategies that were designed 10 years ago. And they will have first results in the autumn, and they should come up with robust roadmaps early next year that will be endorsed by key national stakeholders. So if you're interested, you can go directly to one of the countries and see what's happening. I'd like also to mention that there's an open call for Live CET that is closing on the 16th of November with about 100 million euro funding available. And it's geared towards 13 policy-driven funding topics. And importantly, the co-funding rate is 95% for direct eligible cost. So you will find more information on the funding and tenders portal, obviously. But I already wanted to highlight some topics which I think are super relevant for our discussion today. The Build Skills topic is basically providing continuous support to the Build Up Skills initiative that I just mentioned. And here the focus will be on upskilling and reskilling interventions for decarbonized building stock. So basically we look at all the skills that are relevant, whether it's for energy audits, whether it's for circular construction, whether it's for renovation, running one-stop shops, or doing on-site trainings, for example. So quite a broad scope. There's also, under this call, a topic on heat pumps, which has two scopes. One scope is on increasing the number of heat pumps installations, and the second one is really on increasing the skills of installers. So quite topical as well. Of course, this call doesn't look only at skills, it also looks at the actual energy performance of buildings. And as such, the topic Better Reno is aiming at making creating the conditions to make renovation faster, deeper, smarter, and also more service and data-driven. So it looks really at increasing the rate of deep renovation, lifting, making changes to the regulatory and administrative environment, and increasing the use of data. And last but not least, as I mentioned earlier, we need one-stop shops that are instrumental in providing a very comprehensive answer to the needs of building owners along the renovation journey. They can really simplify the decision-making process and increase demand. So we have already funded projects that are developing more than 36 of these one-stop shops. And the topic in the call of this year, we really focus on the segments of the building stocks that are really challenging, for example, condominiums and businesses. So I would invite you to have a look at these funding opportunities, and there are also many more. If you click on the links here, you will be directly guided to the topic text and funding conditions. If you would like more information on build-up skills as a whole, we invite you to consult the build-up portal, which we are running through a service tender. It's really the main point of information on energy efficiency in buildings and res in buildings. It's really full of interesting stories, webinars, so make sure you consult it, and there's a dedicated section on build-up skills. I think I will stop here. That's enough on my side. Now we really want to hear about the projects and how they have really implemented things on the ground to make sure we have more trained workforce and also a more visible, qualified workforce. Thank you for your attention and have a good discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amandine. And again, as you can see, there is a long history behind the Build Up Skills initiative. So I suppose I would absolutely encourage you to investigate the projects that are currently being funded, and also to take the opportunity to connect with the people that you will hear from later on. The people that you'll hear from are experts in this space. So if you have an idea or want to learn about an opportunity in terms of upskilling, please do connect with them. So the starting point to, I suppose, showcase best practice across Europe will be an introductory video showing best practice from Greece, and a roadshow supporting the upskilling and promotion of reskilling around low energy buildings. So if we could present that video, please. feel like I should have got a group clap going there towards the end. So as you can see from that video showcasing how the NZ Roadshow initiative has engaged all aspects of society, young people, professionals, craftspeople, lots of practical examples. So I'm now going to invite a range of speakers up to present expertise and case studies from across Europe. I've had the pleasure of working with many of these people since the initiation of the Build Up Skills initiative. Unfortunately, I've got a lot older looking, a lot grayer. These people have magically maintained their youthful appearances. So we will start with my colleague from Bulgaria, Dragomir Genev, who is the Executive Director of NEFECT, who will give you best practice case studies from Bulgaria. Dragomir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Seamus. So, yeah, if the presentation appears, we can actually check at the first sight who is getting older, who is looking better. I do think that the Build Up Skills initiative has kept us all in good shape. And the truth is that since 2011, when it started, you see the picture, all of the lecturers here will appear again. We have kept the continuity. And that's extremely important because it hasn't been an easy road. It hasn't been so always progressive direction. It has been start and stop. And there are certain things that are influencing that process. Most of them are rooted by a certain stakeholders group that Seamus didn't mention, and that's the policymakers, mainly at the national level. But I think that we'll get that message through the stories that we'll see now in the next minute. So that's the picture that I'm talking about. That's 2012. I see when we started to develop the national roadmaps until 2020 for increasing the skills in the construction sector to deliver skills and knowledge to build nearly zero energy building that were stipulated by the new then Directive of the energy performance of buildings. And then we started, yes, we knew that we have to do a lot. We have to involve innovative training methods. We have to convince the audiences, the different stakeholders groups, that construction is not, brick and mortar, that it's innovation, that it's new technology, that it's positive attitude to life in general, because we do need people, and we need young people that love being engaged in the construction sector. We started actually in 5 countries: Bulgaria, Romania, Czech Republic, Turkey, and Ukraine. We established training centers that are still active, including in Ukraine. They're still delivering courses. Then we moved to the renovation topic. We involved other countries like Italy, Croatia, Greece, where you saw the great video. We took a lot of lessons from Ireland as well, and we tackled the hottest issue around the deep energy building renovation, because that's what would be driving the markets for the years to come. And we created excellent training materials. We set up new master degrees program. We set up new certification courses for all kinds of professionals. Then COVID came. We moved to the digital environment. So we also have the attractive, easy to use digital tools that we want to deliver to the public. But the truth is that there was and there is still no enough demand for training and education all around Europe, not only Central and Eastern Europe. So we had to ask ourselves the questions: what have we done wrong? What are the reasons behind? And if you ask me to outline the 3 main reasons for that, the first of them is the delay in the regulations. Most of the regulations within the above mentioned directive were implemented at national level with significant delay, which destroys the trust of the markets. Then we have start and stop financial support programs for energy efficiency in buildings, which has absolutely the same impact. And then we do not have sufficient market demand for quality buildings, because people still do not understand the importance and the benefits of energy efficient buildings. And this is what we decided, that We can change, of course. We are working in all three dimensions, but we wanted to change the market appreciation with this ENS approach initiative and some other projects that also supported the road ahead. So we started going places, COVID or not, crisis or not. We started moving places, talking to people in a way that we consider innovative and we consider attractive. And this is what happened. We moved to small places. We moved to schools. Sometimes it was a very lonely experience, I must tell you. It was not always, you know, songs and roses. But we continued. COVID started to decay. We involved product suppliers. Product suppliers were a very important driving force. And they helped us get more and more people. They helped us get to the university. We went to the university. We started with the VR technologies, with attractive demonstrations of products, and the students were on board. And then what happened? The politicians, and some of them you see later, came on board and they got engaged, at least some of them. I'm tempted to say the most progressive of them. And when we had the politicians, we can move in bigger audiences, in bigger places. We could build further, develop new demonstration products, talk with all types of audiences, children, old people, making them take the topic to their homes. In the evening, when they're around the table talking about energy efficiency. And when we had that, then the media appeared. And when the media appears, there is a change going on through the society. But it's really not easy, and it really needs a lot of effort and a lot of support. And it needs personal engagement. That's one thing that I will not tire to repeat. It needs personal engagement. It needs us to stand up in front various audiences, from deputies to the national parliament to school children, and show our emotions, our feelings, express ourselves, because what we are doing is positive for the whole society. So it's not an easy task, and if you take a deep look, you'll see it's not an easy task. It's a complex thing that we have to develop. But if we are serious enough, and if we invest in communication, in stakeholder engagement, I'm sure we are on the right way, and you see in the next presentations where that dedication can lead us. Thank you for your attentions, and I really think we'll have a really nice experience from now on.
Thank you, Dragomir. I invite you to take a seat. Again, you can see the impact of the Build Up Skills initiative and those projects goes beyond the delivery of the training. That impact on policy and engaging of industry is really, really important. Additional benefit and necessary action of those projects. So now we move to Croatia. And again, I would like to invite my colleague Bojan Milovanovic from the University of Zagreb to give us his experiences from Croatia. Thank you very much, Bojan.
Well, I agree with everything what was said, not only by Dragomir. I agree with everything what was said the whole day. A lot of positive examples, but what we recognized is the lack of media, and the lack of media was crucial, and that's why we started working on Croatian examples. So that's why we created something we call Muza. Muza is Croatian word for muse. You know, the inspirational goddesses for literature, arts, and everything in Greek mythology. So we wanted to inspire people, to build efficient, healthy homes, efficient, healthy architecture. And that's why we created this kind of a building. It's big, it's like this screen, so some 9 meters in length, 3 meters tall, and 3 meters wide. And it's functioning like an NZEB building, real NZEB building. It's producing electricity, you cannot see from this side, but it's producing enough electricity to cover all its needs. has PV, it has all the innovative technologies for the envelope. It has heat pump, which heats it and cools it down during summer. And what do we do with it? We go around Croatia and talk to people. As Dragomir said, we talk to people. We invite them to come to us to ask questions. There are a lot of myths in the sector. I presume the same in Romania, Bulgaria, the Netherlands, as is in Croatia. We have a lot of myths. What if renewables don't work? What if heat pumps doesn't work? Why would I live in an airtight building? We give answers to this kind of questions. We get school children involved. We even had concerts of small children. The first concert of a small group, and they played Nirvana. They attracted people. Parents, other school children to come to see what Musa is all about. So, So Musa is mobile. We put it on a truck. We transport it around Croatia. You can see a lot of good images from gas stations, etc. But we go to small cities, we go to small places, not only to Zagreb, because everything is in Zagreb in Croatia. So we recognized that Osijek is important, Split is important, Vodica, Koprivnica, small places are important for this kind of topics. This is another thing we are doing. These are my students at the university, and this is how I give lectures. Not ex cathedra, but involving students into solving thermal bridges, into looking at the life scale models. You wouldn't believe how much they learn when looking at these models, how they finally understand what's the purpose of an airtight barrier, for example. They install windows, they install airtight barriers in these models. We also involved a lot of manufacturers. At one moment, I have to defend myself from the manufacturers. So they are quite interested. It's in their interest to come and talk about energy efficiency, to talk about the skilled workforce, to talk about the quality. So they are coming to us to create more and more events around Croatia. So these were the efforts we did in Croatia, and we were recognized by the National Geographic in Croatia. So we won an award, National Geographic Award, and also by the Croatian Green Building Council Award, because we are not talking just about energy. We are not talking just about thermal insulation. We are talking about noise, we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about circular economy on these events we are organizing. What is the need? The need for training in Croatia is huge. So the graph shows foreign workforce. Just to state that currently we have some 100,000 construction workers in Croatia, and 50,000 plus are foreign workers from Nepal, from Philippines, from Uzbekistan, from wherever. And these people need training. Really, they are in need of deep training. And we are trying to organize 12 training centers around Croatia. We are trying to show them new technologies on hands-on training, and to train until the acceptable level. We are not satisfied. We are not satisfied with the legislation. There is no real demand for trained workers still in Croatia, and that's why We need to talk about it. We need media, we need attractive things, we need a goal. And this is the slide I would like to finish with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bojan. Again, we can see examples of really deep engagement with people using practical examples, lots of touch, feel and see activities. And the impact in terms of connecting with the media is very clear from the awards that they have achieved. So next I would like to invite Horia Petran, who is the president of the cluster of Pro NZEB from Romania, to give us his experiences and the achievements that they have through their best practices. Thank you very much, Horia.
Good evening. I'm very happy to be here with some of my friends, partners, and heroes, because you're my heroes. You cannot beat what Musa did as an impact. I cannot beat the communication from Drago. And we're also sharing experiences with brother/sister project coordinators. Because what we did in what we did in our projects, we received support from the European Union. We shared experience, we did something together, but we tried to build brick by brick the construction in our countries. And this is all about. And after 10 years of having a roadmap, of which only some of us guided and tried to apply the measures, we are now should be the big button, thank you. We are now re-evaluating the status quo, the implementation, the efficiency of the first roadmap, and as it was already mentioned, it's about the number of people and it's about the quality of the knowledge and skills. And if we are taking 10 years step back, I remember that we envisaged that we estimated that we need like 50,000 ethics installers, like 500 Windows installers, and in a total like 85,000 people. Now we have, like you saw in Croatia, a slight increase, but we can see the workforce from Asia, because basically the people from construction sector in Romania are now working in the western part of Europe. And of course it's about the numbers. So we are now evaluating the skills gap. We have the draft, I would say the version 0.0 of the status quo analysis report, but we do not expect much more. Of course, we will have a need for more people, because we have a need for more objectives, more renovated buildings and no new NZEBs, and also having a step from energy efficiency as it was 10 years ago to NZEB and to deep energy renovation. So this is also about the quality. And after having the adventure of building knowledge hub development, of Fit to NZEB program, and developing further the practical training facility, in fact, we always gathered the stakeholders and pushed them in the market to get NZEB ready. And this is all about, NZEB is now a transitory standard to zero emission building, and we are still struggling to implement the concept of NZEB in Romania. The dynamic of the market is different that of the policies and strategies. And what we are doing is to dig and to build up what's beyond the official journal. And this is very important. And now we are building the new objectives of the roadmap. And it's about emotions, as Drago mentioned. It's about the personal engagement. And of course, we are doing dissemination in our projects. But this is more than dissemination. This is emotion, and this is also part of the training. It's part of the networking experience and learning experience. And the concept that we defined and we pilot as a really sustainable event, and I would say motion, in Romania is the NZEB Weeks. We started in Bucharest with 6 weeks, 6-day week, like we used to do like 35 years ago in that era. And we ended with a pretty shaped event of 4 days of conferences, of games, of debates, workshops, demonstrations, small trainings, everything. It's about putting stakeholders together, different stakeholders. And we started from Brasov with the chariot, with our, I wouldn't say musa, because it served just to have some mock-ups inside and materials, but to gather people, to gather stakeholders, to gather partners. Then we went to Iași, in also a public space. We went inside in Cluj-Napoca in November because it was cold. And then we went to Timișoara in month of May. As you may know, Timișoara is the cultural capital of Europe, and we did the culture of NZEB there. We were like 50 partners, more than 200 persons participating in the organization, in the engagement, with technology, which is not the average technology in a construction fair, with on-site visit, with games within adults, but also with kids, with having the next generation aware, because they can make aware the parents at home, playing with the physics and better understanding, and of course using our chariot for a noble scope to have a demonstration on the airtightness measurement, performance measurement. And yeah, this is very simple to see at normal scale, but if there is smoke, of course, it's the heat loss. And coming back to the emotion, we build a community. And it's not only about having a 30-degree encounter between the professional and the beneficiary, the building owner. It's about having all the professionals in the supply chain and in the construction chain all together. So we started with like 13 partners. We ended with 50 at the end of the project, but the next stop, it will be in October in Bucharest because we want to continue this adventure. The feedback that we have from the market is that there is a need for that, and of course, we will continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jorge, and I asked you to take a seat. Again, a new word introduced, that of culture and engaging people. Again, so a lot of inspiration and lots of clear connection with people, and I think raising the point that perhaps is there a disconnect between policy and the ambitions of people. So we hope to pick those up in the panel discussion. So next we move to the Netherlands, and I'd invite my friend and colleague Jan Krumvik, from the program manager from ISSO, to share his really deep knowledge in this space. Thank you very much, Jan.
Yeah, thank you for introducing me, Seamus, and thanks, Sinea, for the opportunity to be here. And what I will do is that I would like to share lessons learned on a more systematic level, on the system level. Because in the Netherlands we have the luxury that the movement of transition is already going on. And that means that there are a lot of networks and initiatives driving the transition of the built environment. but they are doing it quite independently. And our mission in the Netherlands is to connect all the tribes working on transition, and to do so I have several examples with me. And it all starts first with the why. And for me, this image is very powerful. This is the renovation wave. And if you understand the physics of a wave, then you know that a wave is driven by a force. And not a single force. It's a multitude of forces that are together building up the wave to the height that is needed. For example, my career in the construction sector started with the energy transition in 2008. Currently, the material transition is a much more urgent topic than energy, because we have an abundance of energy and we have an abundance of materials, but most of them are locked. They are locked in the buildings or in the underground, and we have to do something with that. The climate transition, it's not only about energy, it's not only about materials, it's about living. And you want to live in a certain comfort, and in the Netherlands we are living below the sea level, so we know what it means to have water in the neighborhood, and it's very important to see that that is also a transition topic. Then the third one is the digital transition. Without digitization, you do not know where the materials are, because if you don't account them, they don't count. And together they are driving a circular transition. And I think with circularity, if you live it to the deepest, just like with NZEP, when you build an NZEP building, you have a good quality system. The same is for circularity. If you apply the circularity principles to sustaining the built environment, you will address all the 4 transitions named, and there are more, because we also have the social transition, the just transition, and whatever transition, because we are living in a time of transitions. And we have a goal. We have to make sure that there are people that have joy while surfing the power of the wave, because the wave is powerful. And in order to learn surfing, you need some time. For example, this surfer started 3 years ago. Why did he start? Because he was on the beach and he saw the waves coming with other surfers on top of it, and he thought, whoa, I want to do that. I want to deliver transition. At first, it was quite uncomfortable, because you really have to come out of your comfort zone. You are doing new things, and the wave is powerful, so if something goes wrong, you are deep down under, and it's not funny anymore. But you have a band of surfing brothers and sisters helping you, nurturing you, training you, and now this person is enjoying the power of the wave with a group of friends. And that's the mission of Build Up Skills initiative, to create groups of friends, tribes that are connected and have the ambition and the drive and the courage to run on the power of the wave. In order to reach those individuals, you can go to the beach, but there are also digital means, and one of the digital means I would like to present today, because it's not only available in the Netherlands, it's available for all of Europe and even the rest of the world, if you would like. With the Build Up Skills Advisor app, you can explore what transition means for you. And we are targeting not the newcomers, but we are targeting especially the people already working, because we have heard today there are many small companies that have a lot of people working in the built environment, but they are doing their daily business. With the Build Up Skills Advisor app, you can find your sector, you can scope a profession. When you scope a profession, you see the nearby zone of development opportunities, because most of the people love to do something that is a bit nearby. and you can find training supply. In order to stimulate a bit the upskilling, we are now implementing in the ARISE project the upskilling stairways or pathways by doing a personal assessment based on the expert opinions of people that are already driving the transition, because there are enough experts that know how to sustain the built environment, and we translated their knowledge into skills mappings so that you can benchmark yourself and select your own ambition on what state do you want to play. Based on that, you get a personal upskilling advice, and that is linked to the course supply in the app so that you can find the appropriate courses. If you're downloading the app today, you cannot see it yet because we are currently putting all the data for the skills mapping inside to make it running. And one of the first topics will be digitisation. The second topic will be circularity, circular skills. What we also do is exploration room. You want to sniff a bit, you want to touch a bit, and we are doing that by adding small e-learnings that are available in Europe plenty nowadays. In 2011, before build-up, there was a scarcity. Now there is an abundance of e-learnings that are free. So we connect them so that you can follow them directly on your smartphone. And I have to speed up a bit, I will do. Because this is the goal. When you are accelerating in transition, in 2030, more and more of those buses have to pass the build-up skills projects in order to sustain the built environment, and that to deliver the 2050 goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan. Again, if you take a seat, and I've, I suppose, always been inspired by Jan's ability to communicate that message. I feel we should have had some Bee Gees music in the background to follow on from the rock music earlier on. So to connect back to our next speaker, many of our best practices spoke about the importance of policy. And we are in a very important phase in the Fit for 55 package and the conclusion of those negotiations on those new directives. And we're very lucky to have a Member of Parliament here today, and I would like to invite Mr. Radan Kanev to address us, to reflect on what he's heard from our speakers, and also his experience in terms of being the opinions rapporteur on the EPBD for the ENVI committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Kanev.
Oh, thank you for having me here. It's quite an undeserved honor, I would say, but let's try to behave. Maybe a few words about my motivation when I started working on the ENVI opinion on EPBD. Quite personal, I would say. First of all, I remember very well the years in the early 90s in Bulgaria when the heating bill was usually half the income of a family, if the family is lucky to have decent incomes. And second, it was already my third year in this awful building of the European Parliament when you freeze all winter and you sweat all summer. By the way, Commission is no better, I feel. But a bit more seriously, in these months working on the directive and now starting the trialogues with the Council, pretty tough ones, I had a number of concerns from different groups and stakeholders, but quite similar ones. When we had all these extensive discussions with industry and businesses, it was all about money and workforce. When we discussed with local constituents, local media, especially in my home country and my constituency in Bulgaria, it was about money and it was about quality of renovation works. Main fear, main concern is about poor quality, which means poor skills of the businesses and workforce who performs the task. Thankfully, not all cases, but a significant number that raise these concerns. And then when we discuss with governments, either at home or here in exchanges with the Council, the main concerns are money, of course, and administrative capacity. So once again, it's about the skills, this time the skills of the administration itself. I will not tell you now because I'm really certain when working on EPBD and generally on energy efficiency that money is no concern, because you know it better than me. Energy efficiency is way of saving money, not way of spending money if done wisely. And I think that most stakeholders tend to understand this in a proper conversation. But when we speak about workforce, skills, and administrative capacity, the problem is really genuine and really serious. I would say maybe administrative capacity being the most serious of all, but of course workforce skills as well. And happily enough, after voting the EPBD in the parliament, now I'm appointed this time Employment Committee Shadow Rapporteur on Net Zero Industry Act, and the Employment Committee competence is really narrow, although exclusive, and it is only on so-called net zero academies. On the very proposal of the Commission on the work on skills for our net zero transition. Unluckily, the skills related to energy efficiency of buildings are not properly included in the Commission proposal, but this is our job to fix, and we are already working on this and putting a strong accent in our amendments on building renovation skills. And best thing I see in the first weeks of the work on this opinion is the strong interest that universities all over Europe have in our work. I've been approached by my alma mater, by the Sofia University, in the very first day after I was appointed, and in the days after I had exchanges with many academic representatives. Very happy to meet the Zagreb University here today, and hopefully we'll have our fruitful cooperation as well. Here I will just open small brackets and say that building up skills, including high-level skills, in the new technologies, net zero technologies, particularly because this is our topic today on building efficiency and renovation, but far not limited to that, is a great chance for the countries in Central and Eastern Europe to have their speeding up of economic development. It is obvious when you have discussions with industries and businesses that long-standing, heavy, conservative industries in the northwest, in the most wealthy part of Europe, are much less flexible answering to the challenges of today. And here I think really the task of our universities is of magnitude that could be hardly overestimated. And it is not by coincidence that I mention universities so many times, because I'm deeply convinced that what we are facing now in the green transition, this is not just a temporary lack of workforce or specific skills for a few years on the labor market. Green transition is not something that will happen till 2030 or till 2050, although in political terms it's very easy to present it like this, and it is rather more attractive to sell it. A deep economic transition, a deep industrial transition, a deep transition in our energy patterns means we will need to develop strategically new skills for generation or generations ahead, not for a few years. Which, on the other side, obviously doesn't mean that we simply need to spend some money on training of some people for a few years. What we need is a whole new educational infrastructure. We need, let's put it like this, a new educational value chain in our preparation of our industrial workforce from the very highest to the very lowest level. And here I'm sure starting with the universities is really the most important part of the job, because they will also build the trainers, the teachers, the vocational trainers, etc., etc. And since I was not prepared for 10 minutes, I think I can finish with 2 minutes and something left, and give more time for your questions and our answers, which should be the main part of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for those very interesting insights. So I just have the opportunity to invite Professor Ivana Bajan-Pekur from, again, the University of Zagreb to join us in the panel.
Can I sit here?
Yes, please. For those that would like to pose a question, again, the Slido functionality is available for those that want to take advantage of that. But like any good facilitator, I have some pre-prepared questions in case you are all too tired to come up with any questions for the panel. And maybe just to follow on from your comments in relation to the EPBD and policy, in your opinion, do you feel that the EPBD, as it has now been approved and being finalized, give sufficient weight to the integration of skills and mainstreaming of qualifications around NZEB, low energy buildings, and I suppose the multiple transitions that Jan spoke about into the qualification systems?
If the question's for me, I would say not enough, but still it's a good start. There was a strong accent in the parliamentary mandate and parliamentary amendments on the skills shortage. Not so much on what I mentioned as an educational value chain, not so much about the higher education and the strategic approach, looking a bit further, but maybe it is not the task of a directive, because we have our free market society. Then we have the freedom and the autonomy of our universities. Then we have the subsidiarity principle, and so many questions much more easily decided on regional or national level. So it's not enough of a focus in the directive, but maybe this is not a real problem.
Very good, thank you very much. And maybe, Ivana, as we haven't had the opportunity to hear from you yet, following on from that, in terms of the national opportunities and what can be done at national level, regional level, and even within the universities, where do you see the opportunities in the immediate future?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to be the part of this conference. In Croatia, we are a lack of workforce in construction, especially in energy efficiency. And also, I can say that in higher education, we have also lack of engineers, especially educated in part of energy efficiency. Because, for example, in University of Zagreb, on master program, we have enrollment about 150 to 170 students each year, but only 20 to 25 students have the subjects about the building physics, and from this year also the subjects about green buildings and energy refurbishment buildings. And I think in the cross skills reload projects, new build-up skills projects, we conclude that we need about up to 30,000 engineers and workers for the for 2030 targets, and more of them, of that number is workers, but maybe to 4,000 engineers. We need to upscale and to improve the knowledge about energy efficiency. During the meetings with the members of national qualification platforms in the project, we have the talk about the on-site situation, and some engineers tell me that it's the problem with the engineers on-site. They are always close in the container. They don't go to the site, to workers. Many engineers don't know the proper how to install the windows, for example, and that's the real problem. They think installers knew the better of that. It's not so good. Yes.
Okay, very good. Again, that shows that connection that was spoken about earlier in terms of the entire supply chain needs to be part of the solution, not just the engineer designing something in his or her beautiful office that can't be built, is not possible to be built. Maybe, Dragomir, to come back to you in terms of the benefit of international collaboration. Clearly, the examples we've seen have mentioned international collaboration across multiple countries. The current Build Up Skills projects are looking to develop new roadmaps, which clearly have to reflect national conditions and policies. Where is the added value in terms of the international collaboration within Europe and possibly beyond?
Yep, thanks, Seamus, for that question. Actually, do we hear each other?
Sorry, just 1 minute while we get the microphone.
He's disconnected.
I think he's plugged out at the back.
All right, thank you for the quick reaction. And thanks, Seamus, for the question. If I have to put the benefits from international collaboration maybe into different dimensions, that would be, first of all, exchange of knowledge, experiences, good practices, and I would say stimulating each other that we can do even better, and we shouldn't stay on our laurels, and we can improve all the time. So that's very important to have as motivation. As I told you, that sometimes working in the educational sector and in the energy efficiency sector can be a very lonely experience. On the other hand, there is another, and I think very important point that we have to consider, that the international support from partners like we have within this Build Up Skills initiative, from the European Commission, from member of the Parliament, that we convince that makes sense at societal level. It's the instrument that we're using to make a tangible impact on the national level policy making. Because the truth is that very often the barriers that we face to bring in the positive messages from rooms like that to the real practice and to make engineers go to the building site, they're rooted in the lack of coherence in the national level policy implementation, and that, as I mentioned earlier, that sometimes destroys the trust of the different stakeholders in the whole process, the system we're trying to build. And I'll just give you a very short example. Actually, when we had the Energy Performance of Building Directives in 2010, we all knew that we have to build near zero energy buildings, right? In Bulgaria, we had the definition, NZEP definition in 2015. And at that moment of time, 2023, this definition is not enforced in the legislation, in the regulations. We started to train people immediately after the directive was published, convincing them with the argument, okay, the change is coming, you have to change your way of thinking. way of designing, way of constructing, and now these people are coming back to us and are asking us, okay, where's your NZEP? We don't see it anywhere near. So that destroys trust. And you need trust to make a system work. So this is where we need the continuing support of the international community to show that where there is trust, the system can be upgraded and can be useful at societal level.
Great. Thanks very much, Dragomir. So very interesting in that both the international collaboration can bring, I suppose, inspiration and ambition, but also benchmarking to show where, if at a national level activities are not where they should be, you can use that to encourage, entice, and maybe push the policymakers. And I think we continue on that national dialogue component, Horia, in terms of the stakeholders. Clearly, you've had experience in terms of the original build-up skills and the national platform that was developed at that point in 2011, 2012, and now the refreshing of that. Are there new stakeholders emerging? Who are the critical stakeholders that need to be involved in delivering on this skills and upskilling agenda? And have you seen, I suppose, changes in the roles of those stakeholders over the last number of years?
I would say that they are the same stakeholders, but of course 10 years means an evolution, maybe not so much as we have hoped, but indeed the problems are different, the people are more or less the same, and maybe with a better understanding we can go further. We need people skilled. We don't need new people to replace the old people. So if we are speaking about the qualification and education system, of course, it's about universities, but not only. And in the life learning, because this is the critical mass, the big mass of people that should be upskilled, we don't need new qualifications. We need, as a common friend from Ireland said, we need to pull out the old chip and put the new chip inside. Everybody should know and should have the knowledge and the skills about NZEB and the future standard of zero emission buildings. And this is what we are doing. We are going, gathering the stakeholders, and by dialogue, by consultation, by maybe inspiring them, because what we are doing with the NZEB roadshow and with all the consultations that we are organizing with these stakeholders is maybe inspiring them to be heroes in this change that we want to drive.
Great, thank you very much. I think it is interesting to see, and as I maybe mentioned, we had our national first meeting, one of our meetings of our national platform in Ireland yesterday, which I attended, and yes, some of the same faces were around the virtual table. It was online, but we also had some new people. So I think connecting with Jan's graphic, which showed the multiple transitions. I do see the potential for new people to enter the dialogue and for new innovations, Jan. So I think you have always been looking at innovations and opportunities. Sometimes the perception of the education and training system is that it's slow to change, not always open to innovation. So what are the real opportunities and innovations in terms of how we deliver this upskilling and reskilling agenda?
Yeah, when looking to delivering the upskilling agenda, I think the most important innovation is social innovation. What we see in our current Build Up Skills national exercise is that more than 80% of the people are newcomers, so to say, but they are working on their part of the transition already for years. And I think many of the elements that I have put on the scheme empowering the wave have evolved on parallel pathways, but in order to make the transition successful, we need to combine the pathways, because it's not about circularity on its own, about digitisation on its own. It's making the handshake between the innovation networks in order to make the transition happen. And then with regards to the educational system, I think priority one is focused on upskilling people already working, including all trainers, including all people that teach students. And then the education system will change rapidly. And we've seen excellent examples from other countries today, how you can bring retrofitting in the classroom, on site, so to say.
Yeah, and I think that came through very clearly, that actually the education and training in this sector, local and regional delivery, is absolutely critical.
It's key.
It's absolutely critical. If we expect construction workers, professionals, craftspeople to travel to the capital city for training, we will lose. We have to bring the training and make it accessible and available. Maybe to pick up some questions from the slide here, so thanks very much for those that have contributed. I'm first going to interested on the green procurement, because it's in a different state of development across Europe. Maybe Ivana, have you any thoughts on the ability to use green procurement as a pull factor in terms of the upskilling agenda?
That was our plan after the Cross Skills 2 project, second project. We wish that the fund for environment protection and energy efficiency, who is have the green procurement or the grants for the incentives for the energy efficiency, states incentives, to put in the procurement that it's the construction company who has the skilled workers have 1 point, not it's elective, it's not necessary. 1 point, it's a better than the other company, but we don't have the understands for that from the fund, national fund. But I think it's a good way, because, for example, if you construct some metal construction, the welder must have certificate. They can't be on the site without the certificate. Why the construction workers?
And I think we will see a lot of evolution and emerging of green procurement as a tool. I think the challenges with the policymakers and convincing both procurement officers and the policymakers to include it as an elective or ultimately a requirement. Please, Jan.
Yeah, and in order to implement that properly, if you are doing green public procurement, then there needs to be a capacity, because procurers are not asking questions to the market when the market cannot deliver the capacity. And I think it's very important that we use, for example, recognition on the personal level and at a company level to make visible that people are properly skilled. And if we do that in a verifiable way, and there are standards for that this is absolutely you that is skilled, then the trust of the procurers will grow and they will dare to try. So we need to find some room to experiment with them, but also we need to scale up the verifiable credentials and the micro-credentials in order to make the system work.
Okay, thank you very much, Jan. I might take the opportunity to answer Valerie's question, who looked for some examples from Ireland. I suppose to maybe just to point to a number of two initiatives in particular, and I know my colleagues referenced to some inspiration from Ireland. I can say that many of my colleagues have passed Ireland out in some initiatives, so we're glad that we sowed the seed. But in particular, coming back to that point of delivery of upskilling being a local issue, we have developed NZEB Centres of Excellence through our Education and Training Board. So there are further education initiatives which are at a local and a regional level. So these are all to a set standard, and people can come and get direct practical hands-on training accompanied with theoretical training around air tightness, passive house, heat pump installation, HVAC systems, etc. And we have also delivered a certificate in training in NZEB, because in fact our trainers that are in these centres did not have the core knowledge to be able to deliver the training. So not just the technical knowledge, but also the pedagogical approaches, the andrology approaches to be able to teach people around NZEB, because it is a different way of training. We have plumbers, we have block layers, we have electricians who are highly skilled in their crafts, but now you're asking them to absorb new information and apply their craft in a slightly different way. So I suppose this has been a really important initiative, and in one of our centres of excellence we are actually building a modern methods of construction facility right beside the NZEB facility. So now we see the materials, the circular economy connecting with the energy agenda. The other, I suppose, particular component we have developed in Ireland and as an initiative which we're leading in the Technological University of the Shannon is a digital academy for the sustainable built environment, which is linking further education and higher education together to create pathways for craftspeople to develop, but also a clarity for those professionals who want to upskill. So often professionals will use the excuse to not train because there is too much training available and they get lost in Google. So a bit like Jan's Build Up Skills app, we are building a digital tool set where they can actually access training for professionals and then build up their portfolio. So I think some of the things that we have identified are to try to remove the opportunity for somebody to say no for upskilling, and by providing the training locally. In addition to that, I think along with all of my other colleagues, there was a huge amount of discussion and ongoing and dialogue with the national stakeholders, with the policymakers, with the industry, with the representative groups, and that is 24/7, 365 job that never goes away and will continue till 2050 and beyond, I foresee. Conscious of time, and maybe I'm going to go to each of my panelists individually to answer the question that's on the board. The next big priority in your respective country, and the one request you would have to our colleagues in the room and online about what they could do to inspire people in terms of the build-up skills and the reskill agenda. So Dragomir, as you were the initiator of this seminar, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Thanks, Seamus. And I'm very happy that the questions that appear from Slido, actually, they get the answers in themselves. Also, what's our next big priority? Our next big priority is to upscale these trainings that are tested and piloted under the different initiatives. And how do we do it? We do it by involving the markets, because market has a strong position within the triple helix of academia and policy making. We do it by involving of public authorities, doing the public procurements, the first question that has been answered. And we are already testing and piloting procurements that are based on requests or requiring skills building, including on the building side, after the contractor is selected. So that kind of works. We're going into the educational system, of course, and there are the first good signs that these inputs from the, I would say, innovative initiatives that we are having are uptaken in the national qualification frameworks and national educational systems. And then again, we want new innovations and new knowledge because the technology is developing quickly. The approaches of design and constructing are developing quickly, and it's a never-ending process. So we need continuity. And basically, that's the message that we want to share with you from this event here. We need continuity in order to make the markets work as a system. That would be the way to upscale the innovations that are constantly flowing through.
Thank you, Dragomir. Horia?
Yes, indeed. Continuity and ensuring predictability, which is critical for the construction sector. What I would say in Romania that a big priority is the educational system reform. We need that, but this is a too big umbrella to discuss now. But I will refer to some maybe small things, detail, but that are really important. In the Recovery and Resilience Plan, the government inserted a measure on training, on upskilling for the construction sector, which is really important. And it's about training and upskilling with short courses, 8,000 persons until the end of this year, and they didn't start it. So this is a mission impossible, but maybe with an extension we can do something. And the other component of this is development of regional training centers. And what we did in the Train to Answer, Benefit to Answer project, we produced the model. We have the terms of reference developed by the Irish partners, and with a lesson learned in the implementation of that in Romania. So this could serve to this development. And on the other side, we have the training courses that we developed in the previous project that I presented, and also the learning units of learning outcomes that we defined in the EPBD project. And this is very recent. And most of this is already included in the certification schemes that the government transmitted to the European Commission to respond to this measure. So I think this is the priority, to continue on this path, to use what we have produced, and to put in force. It's about micro credits, micro certification in short courses, like 2 days, and adding skills to the already qualified personnel in the construction sector.
Thank you very much, Rory, and thank you for picking up on the thread from one of the questions that came through Slido also. Jan.
Yeah. The biggest priority for the Netherlands and the Build Up Skills team in the Netherlands is to get connected with others that are making the transition, because transition is accelerating. From Build Up Skills, we know what should be done with regards to upskilling, and we need to make sure that we can connect with them timely to make sure they put in use all the things we have on the table already, and then enjoy how they cook the dinner and serve the dinner. So that's our biggest challenge, because if knowledge is only on the table and it is not in use, it adds no value.
Great, thank you very much, Jan. I'll come to Ivana first, and then maybe back to our MEP for a final comment. Please, Ivana.
Yes, I think our big priority is attract the young people to the professional schools, and I think we need to talk with the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Construction about some big marketing campaign to attract the young people, students to the schools. And for me is also very important to upscale the this program of education and this results from other projects to the much bigger publics of engineers. Because I said that we need to educate 3,000 engineers, and it's a big job. Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. And finally, Mr. Kenneth, have you any big priorities for you in your challenging role in the Parliament?
I was thinking about the question for priorities in our home countries, but having the time during the other speakers' presentations and conclusions, I consider there is no big difference between priorities on, let's say, EU level and Bulgaria, although Bulgaria is quite specific, geographically isolated and less wealthy in the whole Union. Still, what I would answer for Bulgaria is the same for Europe. On the short term, I think we need two very much interrelated priorities, which are smart financial models and communication. In my work on EPBD and the opinion, I proposed some kind of financial labeling on European level, which gives more credibility in all the member states, like EU-approved financial schemes, which, by the way, the Commission said is fully possible, and they are normally not enthusiastic to take tasks from MEPs that they did not include in their draft, so it's obviously very, very possible, and really extensive communication on one hand, the fact that we can all pay lower bills, and significantly lower bills for energy, and on the other hand, that there are plenty of good new jobs coming on the market. Because the green jobs, including in construction, the skilled jobs, are obviously necessarily better paid than related jobs in the same sector on the same level, which do not require this skill. So it's a great opportunity. I always think in terms of market opportunities, and I think we need to sell market opportunities to our especially younger workforce. But on the longer term, I will come back, of course, to education. And only thing I will say different from colleagues here is that I would not only focus so strongly on engineering, let alone architectural education. Because I think we need to focus also very strongly on economy students, on social science students, even my colleague lawyers, which are very difficult to be persuaded to learn more than legal procedures, but still it's a whole new legal framework that we are starting to live and work in, and we need to understand it on so many levels. Why not medical students? Because we have so many questions related to health here.
You must have been in the session where I spoke earlier and I mentioned exactly the same. So thank you very much, everybody. So I will quickly try to conclude. It's 1 minute over time. Apologies for my slightly delay. I know you've all had a long day. For me, I left my home at 2 a.m. this morning, so a little bit tired. So I suppose to try and quickly wrap up the very rich discussions and presentations, a couple of keynotes from me from the discussions. First of all, to reassure Amandine and the LIFE team that actually our number one priority is to get our status quo reports in and submitted in the next couple of weeks. We guarantee that. I think what we have heard is that there was a huge amount of experience and ongoing resources and development and skills and expertise in the upskilling agenda. So not just the panel that we have here, but all of the Build Up Skills initiatives that have been funded through the various funding programs, through LIFE, etc. So if you need knowledge about how to deliver innovative upskilling, contact these people. Search the website and find out information. Please do not reinvent the wheel. Please do not let your national bodies reinvent the wheel. It has been done. There are lots of experience that you can gain and understand from. Secondly is that upskilling and reskilling is really local and regional. So the local and regional stakeholders are really important, and the facilities and the training needs to be at that local and regional level. And that has to be a key message that's transferred to the policymakers and to enable the education and training providers, both public and private, to facilitate that. I think it was clear again from the presentations that the engagement of industry is absolutely vital, because the technologies are changing so quickly. When we build a classroom and we put in the latest heat pump, probably in 2 years' time that heat pump is out of date. So we need partnerships with the industry to facilitate the exposure to the systems and the technologies and the integration of systems as quickly as we can. Communication, 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 media, culture. So not just generating knowledge and leaving it on the table, but getting out and communicating with the stakeholders, whether they are those in primary school, whether they are those that have one of the questions about those people who are potentially losing their jobs because of the transition. So the Just Transitions Initiative, the Resilience Initiatives, we need to come up with really effective ways of engaging those people who are affected adversely because of the transition. And again, there are lots of good examples across Europe of what is happening there. I think the issue of the handshake that Jan spoke about across the multiple transitions, moving away from the silos of circular versus energy versus digital, and it is clear that the sector is moving together. How we manage that and get those different aspects connecting together in terms of the transition will be important, and this certainly in the Irish context is emerging as a core issue within the status quo report. How we address that in the roadmap. The status quo report tells us the problem, the roadmap presents the solutions. And clearly I'm an educator. I work in a university. It is my job to make sure I am upskilled and my colleagues are upskilled, and that I support those educators and trainers in public and private sector, that we can deliver the high quality training to deliver the quality and quantity of experts and skilled workers we need in the market. And the opportunity for innovation in education is immense. It is slow. I work in a university where to get a regulation change, I usually have to sell one of my children sometimes. It is really slow and really hard, and it involves 400 meetings and lots of paper. But it is possible, and more innovation is coming into the sector, so we have a huge opportunity there. So in conclusion, I would just like to ask you to show your appreciation for our speakers and our panel, please. And to also thank the technical staff for excellent facilities during the day. Wish you a good evening. And we hope to see you back tomorrow. Thank you very much.